Welcome, everyone. So we heard when we did our listening tour in the regions where LEAPS is working that about 50% of young people are going straight into the workforce after high school, but the high schools were largely preparing young people to be college bound. And so there was a bit of a gap there. So that was something that we really wanted to pay attention to. Can you all share a little bit quickly in a few minutes, like try to summarize what you were involved with the LEAPS project in the regard of education alignment to workforce?
We hosted a breakfast with the stars that introduced students. They got to sign up for it, and we had the stars were just local people that had their own business, may have worked at a different place, but they were varied throughout. So it was a good thing. It allowed the students to be able to meet and see people in careers they may never even thought of before. So that's kind of one of the things that we had done with the LEAPS program.
In Louisiana, we are working to develop a work-based learning program for Red River Parish, which is one of our parishes included in our service footprint. They have a program called Jumpstart, and it was developed in 2014 by the Department of Education. It is a part of their career and technical education program, and they offer many different pathways that you can choose, such as welding, carpentry, CNA, a lot of different programs. But one of the benefits of that is that students, they can elect to go into this program, and they will be able to learn and obtain a industry-based credential while attending school. But one of the requirements is that students, they also participate in a work-based learning program. And it could be on the job training, it can be, with job shadowing. But when we were truly listening to the needs within Red River, we noticed that those students in Red River Parish, they lack the hands-on training. And they lack the resources that's available to them, which is Red River is about 45 minutes south of Shreveport. And it might not seem a long distance from you, but Caddo, which is Shreveport Bossier students, they have a number of different opportunities with companies that they can go and work for, but Red River, they lack that. And so what we're wanting to do is develop the relationship between the students, the employers, so that those students will have the same opportunity as the other parishes within Northwest Louisiana.
So my company is a technology company, and we were involved in a skills gap analysis workshop. It's where 20 companies in the tech industry came together, and we were presented with data from a reliable source that said how the people coming out of school and the jobs that were available in the tech industry weren't lining up, and that there was a gap and we needed to fill the gap. And from a tech company that's a startup, we've been around for about a year and a half, we're looking for good people, but we can't really find exactly what we need in the area. And a lot of the people are moving out to the bigger cities. But essentially what we're looking for, instead of being a super high skill level, we're looking for reliable people. So we're trying to instill, and the program is the soft skills of working with teams, meeting deadlines, and being able to be a problem solver, because those are the skills that you need to succeed, and you can learn all of the rest of the technicals. We just really need those soft skills to be impressed on the younger generations.
Thank you. Helena, can you talk a little bit more about, we know that these initiatives need buy-in from the young people, teachers, schools, the employers, parents as well. So it's kind of a two-part question, but the first one is if you could talk a little bit about how this work-based learning initiative was received by students in the school and parents, And then on kind of part two, also by local employers and, some of the challenges that might have come up and enthusiasm.
Yeah, definitely. Just speaking with the students, it's refreshing to hear they want to go into the workforce. And you really don't hear that too often with students saying like, I want this opportunity. I need this opportunity. I do not maybe want to get out of school and not know what to do. So that was really refreshing to hear them say, yes, this is something that I'm willing to dedicate my summer months, of no school, just being able to just relax to really focusing in on their skills, developing those workforce skills that's needed to, prepare them for the next step in life. Parents, they were happy because they were like, oh, good, I don't have to find maybe anything for my child to do during the summer months. But then the benefit of that also is like, when you really start to think about what they will learn, the relationships that they will develop, and the opportunities that will truly help them, as far as some of them might not be thinking about post-secondary. Some of them are not ready for the traditional college track. So it's reassuring to the parent knowing that they will obtain these skills, the skill sets needed to go into the workforce. And they were also pairing it with Passport to Success. So they will have those soft skills, and then the hands-on training, which is a win-win, for them. So the parents are truly on board. They provided us with their blessing, so that's good. In the schools, we would not really know what to do if we did not have a really true we got a really good response from them, because they vocalized, this is a need. This is not something that we have opportunity to experience often. So it was received all around very well. Employers, this is a big one, because as you all know, when you go sit down in front of, these businessmen and businesswomen, they really don't want to maybe talk to you. And what we wanted to do is have a different approach when we were speaking to them. So we hosted a employer lunch and learn for them to just come to the table with me, the superintendent for Red River, and they were just able to vocalize their wants, their needs, what are they missing from hiring maybe entry-level employees. And they were able to just freely speak about what is happening within their community with no judgment. They're the experts. I'm wanting to learn from you. And so that was just refreshing for them, first of all, to be able to speak and then not feel like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm losing business because of this. No, they were really, truly involved. At the end, everyone that attended, they want to participate. And so it's a benefit for them, because it's a small community, and having them to have this new blood come into their companies, it's refreshing.
Great, thank you. Principal Fleener, I think it's very important for young people to get excited about career paths or education pathways that they might pursue. Could you talk a little bit about, do you see mechanisms with a program like Breakfast with the Stars that allows that or gives more agency to the young people?
Excitement can also translate into hope. In a lot of rural areas, you talk to kids, or in the past, they didn't have much hope. And so if you give them that, they do. And so I think anytime you can make it personal for them as well, and that's one of the things that we've done. over time. In Texas, we've kind of gone, that pendulum swings back and forth, and at one time it was everybody's going to college. Well, that's unrealistic. The only thing that went up were college entrance rates, not their graduation rates. Their, bottom line went up because they had more kids that were paying for credits that weren't getting any type of certification or degrees. So we've now seen, I've been in Cuero 3 years now, and so when I first came, there was a lot of need for the social emotional learning. Passport for Success, fit real well with that. We've started to expand on the advanced academics and in the trades and the certifications and going that route. But those were a lot of careers they may have known about. One of the things with Breakfast with the Stars that I think helps make it more personal for the kids is there are people that they never thought about this type of degree. We had a gentleman who owns a telecommunications company locally. He goes into a lot of new construction. He puts in all of the wiring for all of that. Some of these people he doesn't have a college degree either. And so, for them to be able to, one, make these relationships, and then two, also see that there are people interested in their success besides their parents or teachers or that. These are actually just community members that give of their time to help. And so I think that is very important. That earlier panel, they kind of talked about, more bang for the buck. And I was telling one of the ladies earlier, I think sometimes in the rural communities, you do get more success for your buck. If you hunt, what do you want to hunt with? A rifle or a shotgun? And that's kind of how you're doing it with those areas, because you can get a lot of success for your investment, I think, in the rural areas because they don't get it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Natasha, to follow up on your remarks about the workshop you are part of, can you tell us a little bit about how often you engage in workshops as part of the tech, for those that don't know or that are online? Northwest Louisiana has a big tech industry and one that the city wants to have continue to grow and attract people to the city for that. I'm sure you get called upon often, so could you talk a little bit about how much you get engaged, maybe more from the education side, and how maybe our involvement was similar or different?
So there's something called Tech by I-20. I-20 is the highway that runs straight through Shreveport and goes on to Mississippi straight from Dallas. And we're trying to create a tech corridor there. What that means is that because it runs straight through downtown and through other popular areas of the city, that there's a lot of tech companies that are creating their headquarters on the left and the right of the highway, a mile or two away from it. And we are one of those companies. We're right downtown. We're about not even a mile away from the highway, and there's some other ones. There is a big data center that's right there that's involved in these committees. And from about beginning of this year, late last year, there started rising these tech committees all over the city, and the skills gap analysis and Step Forward is one of them that's involved in it, and I'm involved in several of these committees. We got a new mayor, and he's also implemented a new committee specifically for tech. Like, one thing that stood out to me was whenever we first started this, y'all were like, join the Wi-Fi SA free, and it's all for San Antonio. And that's one of the things that we want to try and implement, because we realize you can't find the information if you can't reach the internet. And that's really important. And we don't realize, because we're really blessed, that there's a lot of people out there that don't have access to this type of technology. And so that's some of the stuff that we're trying to implement. And what's really valuable about these different groups is that government leaders, school leaders, the local colleges are all getting involved in it. The people who can make the decisions, and also they're bringing in the tech industry, the leaders from that. And it's not just like one group. Like, there was 20 people at the Skills Gap that we went to. And that's been, I think, a big problem that we've had, is that we've always had opinions from a few select people who want their own agenda done, or people that don't really know anything about what's going on. We need voices from like the youth and from people who are actually in there who can give you a real opinion about what's going on, to the people who can actually make the change. And everyone that's involved in these groups is really excited to make a difference, and it's a really cool initiative, and it's just like a whole culture that's spurring up. So I'm excited to see what's actually going to happen within the next few years.
Great, thank you. I remember chatting earlier with you too, and you had mentioned that one of the power of getting the whole industry together is that the community can be thinking about future job growth and local growth of the economy and where it's needed, instead of just growth or curriculum for one company, which dovetails with what you were saying. A couple questions for all of you. What would you say are the biggest barriers to communication and coordination between schools and employers?
Since I have the mic, I think that a lot of people don't know about what's going on. Like, you can't communicate with someone if they're not listening. And like I said before with these meetings, like I randomly got pulled into it because of the company that I work for. I'm not sure how the other companies got into them, but if there is a way that we can just reach more people and get more people interested in it. And I think really what captures people's interest is like, is this group actually doing something? We've all been involved in groups and it's just kind of like a waste of time and nothing ever happens from it. But the people who actually make the change and make something happen are the people who are in the group. So what are we doing to make the change? You know, if we're going to be involved, we need to be willing to actually do something and implement it and voice our opinions and make a difference. And that just creates a little excitement about it and a buzz and talking about it, because we're the people who are going to make this initiative happen. We need to be excited about it and spread the word and have the ideas, because then that will draw other people to be involved, which will spread the word and make it more popular, and then thus growing ideas and making it just better in general.
I would have to agree, Natasha. Definitely informing I'm speaking on behalf of just the school system, building those relationships with the employers, making sure that they're informed of different policy changes, making sure that we listen to their needs, their wants, making sure that we can align what we're teaching, the curriculums that we're teaching, it will truly match the skills that they're needing within their companies and in that sector. I know that especially with Red River, the companies that attended that workshop or the lunch and learn, they were really truly amazed by what's being taught within the school system, because they were thinking that, you know, they would have minimum to no knowledge of maybe going into welding. But after reviewing some of the skills that's being taught, they were like, okay, this person's truly wouldn't, you know, we would definitely have to monitor them and supervise them, but they're aware, they know what's going on, and it will be a benefit to have them a part of the company. So just making sure that they stay informed, and not duplicating, but making sure that we come together, we collaborate. And I know just with developing this work-based learning program, other schools are doing it. So why, sit here and try to reinvent the wheel? I reached out. The school, they're reaching out to other schools. So just building that community, building that relationship, it's important.
I mean, I agree. I think the relational aspect of it with the employers is big. I think also that relational aspect with a community college can be very good. I visited a high school, and they did an excellent job of leveraging their relationship. And of course, it was just 2 blocks down from them. And so in Cuero, we kind of have a different issue there, because I have students that live in Victoria County, students that live in DeWitt County, and a few that live in Goliad County. And so for them to take a local dual credit class at the community college there in Victoria, some may be $200 and something, others it would be close to $500. And so I'd have parents, well, why is that student's price lower? So then we have to get creative, and so it's creating new partnerships. And we partnered with the University of Texas through their on-ramps program to offer more advanced academics in that regard. In talking to a local construction company, he actually built the new portion of our high school that we just opened and the 2 new elementary schools in our district. He had to pay to have tradesmen come in. If he needed a mason, if he needed, some of these other people, because there were not enough locally for him to hire. So he had to just pay them. He had to house them. He had to feed them. And so it really increased his cost as well. So through that partnership, we kind of founded a regional construction academy that is going to start to produce some of these people that will, we had 12 students involved in it this year. I'll have 18 next year. When the ones that will graduate this year, I'll have to continue with it. But the ones that will graduate next year, they'll be an apprentice and they'll be ready to go and be employed and be able to make a good living, not going to college. And so we've got to start to build it. But it's just, you never know what the needs are in the school and what the needs are in the community. It's just breaking down those barriers of communication. From what I found out about the Step Up program, Step Up, I'm sorry, today, I think that's a lot of what they do with that. And so to me, that's a nice maybe medium to help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we heard a lot of breaking down barriers, having the space to connect, having employers maybe come into the schools. Your example is even almost by chance that the construction needed to be done, and then there was this huge labor gap. So trying to all work together in our own ways that we work to be breaking down some of those barriers and inviting people into schools and collaborating. Helena and Principal Fleener, can you kind of think, if you were to continue these programs for 5 to 10 years out, what would the change be over time for the community that you're working in?
What I would see is we're preparing kids to be successful, whether they're going to college or whether they're going into a career. We're going to have students that will have more certifications. You saw the young lady who said that she wanted to be a cosmetologist because of that student interest, and I had about 70 students interested. I was able to hire a cosmetology instructor, so we'll start that. So I think if we continue, we're going to have students that are just better prepared for success in what comes next, whatever that is for them.
I definitely agree with that, Principal. And then also within the school system, creating more opportunities. Employers, the students that actually go through this program, they can testify. They will be able to provide us with the information needed to say, this was beneficial for me. I'm able to work, provide for a family maybe, with cutting down the cost of going back to school, and then just knowing that they're certified. And once other employers find out about that, other members of the community, they will say, okay, what other career paths maybe could we add to, the curriculum? Welding, construction, culinary, that's the top programs within Red River. Why can't we expand that? Why can't we add a tech, pathway? Why can't we, build the CNA program, healthcare? So by being successful with this pilot, and truly building the name of, and even the skills that they will be able to learn through that, other companies, other members of the community, they will want to be a part of that change. And one thing that I like about it, and I know that Red River will definitely speak on this, we're not taking this out of their area. We want to make sure that it starts there. Let's build their community. Let's build, let's keep the resources there and truly let them be able to say, this is ours. And we want to make sure that we don't want it to fail, so we want to make sure that we improve every year that this is available for those students.
Okay, one final question, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A from the audience. We think a lot about how to make our initiative sustainable. We're bringing in sometimes investments to start up a program like Breakfast with the Stars or the Work-Based Learning Program or the Career the curriculum realignment and analysis are kind of connecting the whole industry of high paid, high demand job. Can you talk a little bit about realistically how sustainable some of these things may or may not be, and also if you have suggestions for how to help it be more sustainable?
Definitely working together. The funding for work-based learning, it's there. Making sure, since now we started this program, we're aware of certain scholarships that are available, certain funding that's available from the school system, the school board, Department of Education. So just making sure now that we act on that, we use those resources that are available. That will be one way that we definitely can sustain it. And then also, it's a lot of work. What we're doing right now with the development of it, but to truly see this happen in the future, they will need like a liaison. They will need someone, a career and technical education liaison that will be able to speak on behalf of the school and then build those relationships with employers to make sure that we are not missing or we're not dropping the ball. We are providing follow-up so that we stay informed, that the school stays informed, but also the employers that we're wanting to continue to use as our partners throughout this, they will be able to continue to come to the table and let their voice or have their voice be heard. So I believe that, funding is definitely, we can't, I would be lying if I say that we don't need it, but just making sure that we continue to speak with other parishes to see what they're doing to maybe use those resources for funding, and then making sure that we have a person that will be able to play that advocate role for the school and the employer.
So my company, we are all about data and evaluation and iteration. So I think if there was a way that we can gather data about what actually is happening, the efficiency of it, where the finances are being applied, evaluate it on a frequent basis so that you can make quick iterations for improvement, thus making your funds stretch longer and be more efficient.
I'll go back to creating those partnerships again. And you can do it individually with the school, but in Texas, many of the districts have an education foundation, and that's a nonprofit within the district that gives grants to the schools. It also in turn gives scholarships to students to pursue post-secondary learning. So I mean, that's another partnership that businesses can come in with and look at as far as their giving. But then, that old line, success breeds success. And so once the students, have that success, then I think that will help it be sustained. And I think she hit on a great point, and that is, to get that success is we've got to find that person that can help them go through those interview processes, and do all of those, because, like I mentioned, the construction academy. Well, they have someone that's doing that. But, 2 years ago, I started the certified nursing assistant program. We started an automotive one last year. We've got a welding one going. We've got, we're going to start the cosmetology. So all of these, being able to find a placement so that those that want to be employed can, once they've attained certification, I think is going to be huge. And so I don't know what that's going to entail. Probably having to hire someone in our place.
Any questions from maybe either online or in the room?
I think going back, Natasha, to your opening remark, my question is kind of about that. But in coming from the university world, you had mentioned that you found that some college grads just didn't really have the skills that you were looking for, and they were probably skilled in some ways, but not in the ways you needed. I'm curious, as much as you can kind of delve into that, what were the shortcomings that you noticed in college grads in terms of the workforce readiness?
So this is actually one of our biggest things that we encounter whenever it comes to hiring, especially out of college, even people who have some experience, is that they tell us a resume of skills that they say that they have, that they learned, jobs that they have, but they can't tell us or explain exactly what they did or how they did it. And that's really what we're looking for. I mean, I have a college degree. My husband pretty much has two. We're all about college degrees, but our portfolios is what speaks for us. And whenever we talk to people, yes, it might give us like just a little step up above another person in just the interview timeline if they have these degrees listed or certifications. But what puts somebody really up there is if they have a good cover letter explaining enthusiasm about working, about their skills of teamwork, of time management, of meeting deadlines, things like that, of being able to problem solve, and and then showing a portfolio and listing out projects and what they did in there. And I think that the educational systems are geared more towards giving out degrees, papers, rather than caring about what the students actually can accomplish. So we're actually working with a lot of the schools locally, the colleges, and some out of state, on trying to refine the curriculums to be object oriented, meaning that you actually produce a functional project that encompasses something that would happen in like a real work situation, instead of just completing small little tasks to make a grade in a class. You're actually making something that's functional and you can apply it whenever you go to a real job. Another thing that we push for heavily, we are in the tech industry, so most of you probably haven't heard of this term before, but it's called agile. And agile is a way of developing, and it puts you in time management and accountability, and it lets you work with teams, especially if you're remote. And I think that schools need to start implementing this type of mindset, that people need to be accountable, because we're so afraid of talking to somebody about the project we're working on because we think that they're going to judge us for the process, and that's usually not accurate. We just want to know what's going on, so that if there's a problem, we can address it, we can fix it. If you don't know how to do it, that's fine, just tell us and then we'll help you, or we'll put somebody else on it. Not a big deal. But people live behind this wall of not wanting to communicate with each other, because that's how we've lived and how we're trained through all of the schools, and we get out in the real world and we don't know what to do.
Hi. In my industry and in the people that I work with, I'm finding that more and more people are working remotely. New jobs are being developed where people are working remotely. How can we help our kids coming out of school have the skills, the soft skills, as you said, Natasha, to be able to work remotely successfully?
There was a study recently by the College Board that said the two most important skills that graduates need is coding and government. Basically, they need to understand how a computer or this device here works, and how our government, the Constitution, works. So I do think by doing that, by teaching coding, that will help them. Be it by, as Natasha said, teaching them how to interact and work in a group, doing more project-based learning where you can grade them only on what they're doing or the end project, and you can evaluate that through some type of rubric. So I think those are important skills, but they've got to learn how to work and interact with other people. And as I said, I think coding is going to be extremely important.
So something that is definitely implemented or can be implemented easier on a college scale rather than in high school is communication outside of the classroom. So if we can make it just a normal thing for students, for example, if let's say they're in an English class, and how the one lady had her procrastination chat group, and essentially that is what we do at work. We have an app called Slack, and we communicate over that, and we have people that work all over the states, all over the world, and we're in constant communication with them. And it's okay, and you learn how to interact with people over the digital world, and that's a very important skill to have, especially if you work in a rural community. Because somebody mentioned, and it might have been you, about people working remote, and there's so many opportunities for that, and the sad thing is that we don't know about it until you encounter it somehow, somewhere. You don't even know how to search or find these type of jobs online, which is sad, and I don't know how to answer that problem. But if we can somehow incorporate into curriculums communication online, either through like a chat, a group, accountability, studying, tutoring, things like that. And the college, I'm on a advisory board for a college in Lafayette, a game development college, and something that they're planning on trying to put into their curriculum is students who have a hard time coming into class all the time, how we have the online classes but still trying to keep accountable, is to have like a daily stand-up. And so what that means is that every day at a certain time for like 15 minutes, everyone gets together online and says what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and if they have any problems like that, and doing that every single day. So whenever they graduate and they get into like a tech job where this more than likely will be implemented if they move to a larger city or work remote, they will have to do that and be accountable every single day.
I'm really glad you mentioned soft skills, and I was curious to know more about, from the high school side, what are some of the concrete things that you do or plan to do to develop things like, well, for example, health skills, because if you don't know how to stay healthy and avoid addiction and all that, it's going to be really hard to be productive in the workplace. Or social emotional learning skills, mental health, those type of things. What do you guys do in the high school to develop those, and what's the point of view from the workforce of, how much do you value high schoolers spending time on that versus other things?
I definitely think that's a need. You'll hear from one of our staff members later this afternoon, and she teaches the social and emotional learning. And we try and keep the numbers relatively low so that she can build a relationship. There's some days, because it's mainly our freshmen, and there's some days she goes home extremely frustrated because of that, because it does. It takes a lot of, when you're having to deal with a lot of that emotional angst or need coming from the students, it takes a lot out of you if you're very empathetic. And I don't think she knows the value that she provides to our staff and our students. And so we address it in those regards. A lot of it, the curriculum is driven by the state, but there are things that we have the ability to do as a school. And so we do that. Other districts may not. There's a companion one that goes through that in our athletic program, because athletics is very big there. And so we actually have a character development class that goes along with the interpersonal learning skills. And then that, we've got a lot of young men in our community that don't have that male role model that they need. And so, they go through and they get some of those skills, and those coaches take on that role. They break them down into families, and they go about teaching them. Back before prom, they went over how to treat a lady, how to open a door, just things that, I guess my dad taught me to do and stuff like that. So we do definitely address a lot of those type of things. And we also, through the curriculum in both of those courses, we address the health aspect of it. We do other things throughout the year, through some drug-free programs that we try and make sure that, to address that specifically. But then in those as well, we also address some of those soft skills. The state doesn't require speech any longer. We still have them take it because they have to go through and then learn. They're giving those speeches. The students that were up here earlier, extremely impressive. Sometimes you go and you meet students and you ask them a question and it's and they just kind of look down. They did. They looked you in the eye. They were very articulate when they were answering the questions. So I think there's a lot of good going on out there, but it's just constant. We got to keep working at it. We've got to, someone mentioned the opioid epidemic. I think that's a legislative issue, and I think we need to address it. But then I don't want to get on a soapbox either, but those are those things we need to start to address. But a lot of it is still the community involvement. Getting the churches involved, getting the Rotary, the Lions Club, all of those people involved as well in helping to educate kids. Because if they hear about the, just drugs are bad from one set of people, then it's not always the most effective. We still trying to think of the name right now, it's escaped me. Shattered Dreams. We did a real big thing with that, and that's kind of a role playing about the ills of drinking and driving, or being distracted and driving. And I think that's a very powerful thing for the students to be able to see, and hopefully it prevents our community and whoever sees it from having the type of tragedy that can come from that. But there's a lot of things we have to continually address. And the wonderful thing about schools, we'll get to this week, is graduation. But guess what? We'll have another group that shows up in August, and we'll go through it again. And there may be different needs that this group has that last year's didn't.
Just really quickly, I know that in Red River Parish, they have implemented the Passport to Success curriculum. And if some of you do not know, it's an 80-module curriculum that is broken down into six different areas of, like, problem solving, how to market yourself, health and wellness, being, able to, if you want to have that career in entrepreneurship, they have a track for that. And so by just as implementing within last year, the teachers truly found out that there were a lot of things that they might have taught at the beginning before they started teaching a Passport to Success, that they've now, the students, they have a new understanding. Some of the information was foreign to them, but by the engagement, I know that the lessons, they require you to be very engaged with one another. So going down to the teacher, sometimes the teacher will have to expose and provide scenarios that's something that they can relate to, that these students are facing every day, but they just do not have the tools. They do not have the resources to be able to handle that. And so it's reaching so many students in Red River that they're now going home and telling their parents about certain lessons that they've learned. We work, and the parents are like, okay, I'm going to use that the next day at work when I have this problem. I'm going to not just, ignore it. I'm going to address it, but they have the tools, they have the skill set to be able to do that. So definitely Passport to Success is a great addition to their curriculum that they're already implementing within their life skills classes.
Everybody will still be here this afternoon, so feel free to continue asking questions to our panelists. And thank you so much to all of you for your candid answers and all of your insights on this. I really appreciate it.